Hi guys, welcome to another session of grammar. Today we're going to pick up another common topic, which is comparatives and superlative adjectives. We all know what are adjectives, we all know the different types of adjectives, but we are not going to go into the detail of the different types. We're just going to stick to comparative and superlative adjectives. All right, I'm quite sure all of you during your school days and all, must have gone through this topic and you studied and all, but still sometimes the people are confused, like which comparative adjective to use at what place. And there are certain common mistakes which people make is in the spellings, that which word will go with an er, which word goes with est and all. So today we are going to clear all the myths, all the doubts related to comparatives and superlatives, that where do we use it, when do we use it, and then how to use it, very importantly. Okay, fine. So, like, now let's understand what are comparative adjectives. I'll do a quick reading also if you want, but otherwise it's here. Comparatives and superlatives are obviously the special types of adjectives where we're comparing either between two things or we're comparing amongst a group of things, which is any number that is more than two, you're comparing. Fine. Now, the only thing you have to understand and get it clear is which adjective goes where, the spelling, and how do we use it. So let's understand this one by one. Comparative adjectives, I'll make it very simple and easy. Comparative adjectives are we know what are adjectives, right? Adjectives are words that will help you in describing a noun. For example, I have a house. House is a noun. Good. So I need to know what kind of a house do I have. I have a beautiful house. Because it is describing my noun, which is a house, beautiful is my adjective. Correct. Now I need to understand the comparative and superlative part of it. Comparative is when you are comparing between two things. That's it. Only then will you use a comparative adjective. If you are comparing between two nouns, it's a comparative adjective. There are, let's say again, hypothetically, we're talking about two kids, right? Only two kids. She is taller than her. Well, I'll give names to it. Tina is taller than Sheetal. Because I'm comparing between only Tina and Sheetal, which are two girls, I will use a comparative adjective. Tina is taller than Sheetal. That's it. Fine. This is comparative adjective. Yes, we do end our, in comparative adjectives, we end our words in ER, but still it's not that simple. Why? There's an exception. If you have a word that ends with Y, the alphabet Y, then what do? You cannot have a comparative adjective with ER. Here, the comparative adjective, what will happen? If your word ends with a Y, you will strike off the Y and you will write IER. For example, easy. EASY is my word. Okay. I have to make a comparative adjective out of this. I will strike my Y and I will say easier. EASIER. Please be careful of your spellings in this and also be careful where to add ER and where to add IER in comparative adjectives. But again, to just give a quick recap, comparative adjectives will be used only when you are comparing between two nouns. That's it, not a number more. Now let's come to the superlative adjectives. Superlative adjectives are used when we are comparing amongst a group of nouns. Any number above than two. For instance, let's say we are talking about Ram, Rakesh and Gaurav. Fine. I have to use a superlative adjective. I want to do, describe about any one feature of theirs. So I will say Rakesh is the tallest amongst them. What did I do over here? I'm talking about three boys. Ram, Rakesh and Gaurav. Just three. I will not use a comparative adjective. I will use a superlative adjective. Rakesh is the tallest amongst them. So say we are talking about, a bunch of students in a classroom. Now in a classroom, you normally have 10 to 15 students, right? And I have to describe about one student amongst these 15 students. I have to describe only about one student. So say I would say that, Gaurav is the best in his class. So in his classroom, there are 15 students. Gaurav is the best in it. He is the only child who gets 100 out of 100 in maths, or he is the only child who understands all the concepts of maths easily. Whatever you want to explain or you want to describe as, because one amongst the group you have to describe, Gaurav is the best. Here, best is the superlative adjective. Better is a comparative adjective. Gaurav is better than Rakesh in maths. I'm comparing between two boys. Better. But now I have to compare Gaurav with the entire class of 15 students. Gaurav is the best in the class. Superlative adjective. That is it. That is all you need to understand. Again, same rule applies here with the spellings. Now, when do we use, normally superlative adjectives will take est in the end. If it's a regular verb, it will take est in the end. But again, you have to understand the spellings. When it comes to superlative adjectives, it is very important to understand the syllables. Now, a lot of people are confused and they don't understand what are syllables. Syllables, a lot of people don't understand, like I said, about syllables. Syllables are very important for your spellings. Syllables are also important to understand how to spell your, superlative and comparative adjectives in a proper manner. Now, what are syllables? Syllables are the vowel sounds that you hear in a word. Please mind it, understand. I am not talking about the spelling A, E, I, O, U. No. I am talking about the sound of A, E, I, O, U. Those are called syllables. In some words, you will have one syllable. So, you might come across, the word which says one syllable word or two syllable words. One syllable word means where you will hear only one vowel sound. For example, big, sick, tall. They have only one syllable word. You can hear only one vowel sound. Big has A, tall has O, sick again has A. These have only one vowel sound, hence they are called one syllable words. So based on it, your spelling for the superlative adjective and comparative adjective also changes. Okay, let's go through an example. You'll understand it better. Like here, it's again given to you in the note if you notice. When the adjective follows the consonant, vowel, consonant, spelling, the final consonant is going to get doubled. If you follow this format, CVC, the last alphabet is a consonant. That last alphabet will get doubled automatically when you are framing a comparative or a superlative adjective. Let's look at the examples. You'll get a better understanding of it. Second. here. Sorry. Okay, let's look at it. Now, do you see the word over here, big? B is a consonant, I is a vowel sound, G is a consonant. So what happened with my comparative? I added another G, bigger, and then ER, which comes in the end, which is the structure of a comparative. Same rule applies here with superlative. Because it is CVC, I added another G, and then I add EST to it because that is the structure of superlative adjective. I have to add a EST to my superlative adjectives. But I also have to take care of my syllable sounds, and I also have to take care because of that of my spellings. Like tall. Still it is following the concept of CVC. That means I have only one vowel sound to hear. I don't have two vowel sounds to hear. So what happens over here? My last consonant is an L. That becomes double. And since tall is already double, so please do not add another L to it. Doesn't make sense. Just add ER. And in the superlative, add EST. Same rule applies for small. Already my consonant is in double, LL. So I will add an ER in the comparative and I will add an EST to the superlative. But now if I come here to hot, one single vowel sound, O, hot. I have only one consonant in the end, that is a single T. Automatically I will make it double in comparative, that is double T and ER. And for my superlative, it is double T and EST. That is all you need to understand and remember. So like here, if you look, examples. I am faster than my friend. I am comparing only between two people. One is my friend and one is me. I am faster than my friend. And because fast is a single syllable sound. Single syllable, that means I have only one vowel sound, which is A. Fast. My last alphabet is a consonant, which is T. So I will just add ER to it. I have two consonants over here. S and T. I have two consonants, ST. So what happens? I will just add an ER. I will not make a double T out of it. I have two consonants after my vowel sound. Consonant, vowel, consonant, consonant. So what happened over here? Since I already have two consonants, I just have to add ER. End of the story. Fine. Here hot, I have CVC. Consonant, vowel, consonant. And because it's a single consonant, I have added another here once. I have added another consonant to it, that is T. And then I've added ER. That becomes my comparative. Right. Now let's understand with superlative. Again, we already know about tall and tallest. Why? Because double L is two consonants. T is a consonant. Sorry, I'll move my thing. T is a consonant. A is a vowel. L is a consonant. L is a consonant. Because I have already two consonants, when I'm creating a superlative, I just have to add EST. She is the tallest student. Now what happens with short? Look at the spelling just with short. That with the T. This is the original word short. I have two consonants, SH. I have a vowel O, vowel sound also, short. R, one consonant, T, one consonant. I have two consonants already. So I do not have to, add another consonant to it. I will just add EST, convert it to superlative format, and I will frame my sentence. That was the shortest movie in the series. This is it. Okay. Now you guys must have also noticed in the sentences above, if you look in comparative and superlative, whenever we add a superlative adjective, you will see the article the is always, it is followed with an article the. Right? Whereas if you look at a comparative adjective, the adjective is followed by than. THAN. So whenever you are comparing between two people, you will have a comparative adjective, then you will have than. THAN. You're comparing between two. That's the structure, that's the format. It will always be like that. Now, when we're talking about superlative adjectives, you will have a superlative adjective, but before that, you have to have an article the. Because you're trying to say that this is the ultimate thing, the last thing. She is the best. There is no one else better than her. Right? So, the best. That means it's the ultimate. It will always, superlative adjective will always be followed. You will always have a the, then you will have a superlative adjective, and a comparative adjective will always be followed with a than. Please, guys, note this. Remember this. It's not difficult. Just, little practice and you're good to go. Now let's come. We did we did about, one syllable adjectives. That means only one vowel sound in the word. Now let us come to two syllable adjectives, where that means you can hear two vowel sounds in a word. Then what happens? Now how do we make the changes? Okay, so let's see, over here we have a chart. Normally, if you look at it, comparative adjectives with two syllables can be formed by making er in the end, or you can add words like more or less before the adjective. For example, more beautiful. You cannot have a word beautifuler, more beautiful, or less beautiful, but you cannot have an er over here. Let's understand how and why and what is it. Superlative adjectives also have the same rules. You can add est in the end with a two syllable adjective, or then what you can do is you can use most or least. She is the most beautiful girl in the world. You can do that. More or less is for comparative, most or least is for superlative. Okay, now let's understand. Let's move down a bit to get this. So say our adjective is happy. Now just hear the sound carefully. Ha, first vowel sound. P, second vowel sound. I have two vowel sounds over here. So what did I do? The first rule in the beginning I told you, if you have a word ending with Y, you strike off the Y and you add IER for comparative, IEST for superlative. The same rule applies here. Happy, happier, happiest. Do not forget that, please. The rule is for Y. You have two syllable sounds. Again, I'll repeat it all over. Ha, P, A, E. These are two vowel sounds. But my last alphabet is a vowel sound. My last alphabet is a vowel sound, but it ends with a Y. And the rule for a Y in adjective is, especially when you're doing a comparative and superlative adjective, the rule is cut off the Y, add I to it, and because it's a comparative, you will write ER in the end. And if it is a superlative, you will write EST in the end. But the Y gets converted to I. Please, guys, remember this. Don't get confused. Don't forget. You cannot have happy with Y in the end and then you just add ER to it. You cannot do that. You have to strike off the Y. You have to uh, add I to it, then ER and then EST. The same like if you look at crazy. Two sounds you can hear. Z, two vowel sounds. The last alphabet is a Y. I strike off my Y. I add I to it. Because it's comparative, I'll do ER. And because it's superlative, I will do EST. Crazier, craziest. Happier, happiest. Now let's come to the fact of nervous. Now I do not have a Y. Now let's hear the sounds again. Two syllable. Ner, a. A is a vowel sound. Was, a. Nervous. Again, I have another vowel sound which is a. But there are two vowel sounds. I do not have a Y in the end. So what do? I am more nervous. You cannot have a word nervouser, not like the one syllable adjective we did above. Oh, because you know the S is there, just add ER to it and EST to it. No, you cannot do that. It's a two syllable adjective we are dealing with. There is no Y in the end. It ends with a consonant. More nervous, less nervous. If you're doing superlative, most nervous, least nervous. He is the least nervous in the class for the exam. She is more nervous than her mother, or her mother is more nervous than her daughter for the exam. Anyhow, right? But we will not have an ER and EST here. We will use more and less, most and least, right? Now let's look again at massive. Massive, do not, again, like I'm saying, guys, please do not look at the spellings. Don't think, oh, there's an A, I, E, so that suddenly there are three vowels. So how can she say it's a two-syllable adjective? It's three syllables. No. We are not talking about spellings. We are not talking about alphabets. We are simply talking about the sound. What do you hear? You can hear only two vowel sounds. Ma, a sound, sieve, a sound. These are vowel sounds. So you have two syllable adjective massive. Okay. Now massive is different. It does not end with a Y. Yes, it has an E in the end, but still it gives you a very consonant feeling, massive A. So you will say more massive, less massive, most massive, least massive. You cannot have a massiver and massivist. It does not work like that. The ER and the EST for one syllable adjective, yes, it is there, it works. That's the rule. But when we come to two syllable adjectives, if your word ends with a Y, then only you can have an ER and EST. Otherwise, the other two syllable adjective words, apart from the Y that ends with a Y, you will either use more or less, or you will in the superlative use most or least. But you will not say, what do you say? Like you cannot say nervouser or massiver. These words don't exist. All right. Now let's look at quiet. Now here we have a rule. Again, the rule goes, it's like CVVC. I'll explain it to you. We have a single consonant in the end. Just a single one. Okay. Quiet. It's an exception. Quiet. Quiet. It gives you two sounds together, non-stop. Quiet. You can have a quieter. You can have a quietest. You can have more quiet. You can have less quiet. You can have most quiet. You can have least quiet. Okay. Mostly we always stick to more quiet or most quiet in the class. Quieter, quietest, we rarely use it, but let's understand this. Now, normally when it comes to the second syllable, generally you see most common is the usage. That's what we use, right? Now, additionally, the adjective does not need to end in Y in order to use ER or EST. The last example in table shows that, like we do not, like I said, Y. We use it with Y. Obviously, it's a fixed rule. You will do that. Exceptions are there, like you have a word in quiet. Your ear will often be able to recognize what sounds best. So go with the sound. Like you do not like the nervouser does not make sense. Massive, massiver does not make sense. Quiet, quieter or quietest you can go. But yes, mostly people stick to the most. Like I said, most or more, less or least is commonly used when it comes to, you know, two syllables adjectives. That's what we do. Okay. But that is also there, and we have exceptions. We have, some exceptions here, which we will understand. Like here, if you look at it, she tends to be passive. Now, if you just pick up the adjective passive, passive has two syllable sounds, pa and sieve. So, but because it ends in an e, I cannot do passiver. So I will use more or more less, most or least. She tends to be less passive than her brother. She tends to be the least passive in the class. You can do that. But now let's look at another example over here. If you look at it, you have simple, right? This quiz is simple than the last one. What we did was we added er to it. We did not use more simple or less simple. This is more simple than the last one, or this is less simple than the last one. We simply used er. Now I cannot say that okay, before an e there is a consonant, because if you look at passive, even before an e there is a consonant. Both end in e, both have a consonant before them. Both are, the double syllable adjectives. But still, this is an exception over here. What sounds better? You can go with it. Massive does not sound better, massiver. And passive obviously also does not sound better. You have to go with more or less. Nervous is also the same rule. If you look at it, it completely ends over here. You have two consonants, U and S in the consonant sounds. The S is in the end. I still cannot add a double S and do ER to it. I can't do that. So you will have to go with what sounds best, and you'll also have to go with, the exceptions that are there. Sometimes we just need to learn, we need to accept the way it is. Unfortunately, that is how it falls over here. The why part, yes, there are rules to it. It's easy to understand. But some rules that are just there like this, you have to go with the sound and you have to do it. Okay, so like we look at busy. Busy ends with a Y. I have to make a superlative. I struck off my Y. I added I to it. I did an ESD to it. Rapid. Rapid, what happened? It's a double adjective, double syllable. Rapid. Okay, fine, good. Now, if you look at it, look at it. My D, single consonant CVC rule. Fair enough. But still, I cannot make a double D and ER to it, na? Rapider, even if you say it doesn't sound nice, it doesn't make sense. Rapidest doesn't make sense. More rapid, most rapid. It makes sense. Right? So sometimes you just have to go with it. But again, a quick recap again from the earlier one. If you're doing a comparative word, adjective, after the comparative adjective, you will add THAN, than. And if you're doing a superlative, you will have to add article the before the superlative adjective. Quick recap, please remember this, do not break this rule. The busiest shopping season. This is the most rapid method of delivery. The most rapid method of delivery, sorry. Okay, there's another rule. I just came out of my mouth, so I'm just doing a small, extra note to the session. It is how to pronounce the article the. If my word after the article the is a vowel sound, for example, apple. Let's say apple. The apple. The pronunciation of the word the is converted to the apple. But if my noun is a consonant sound, say for example road is a consonant sound, my pronunciation of the article the becomes the road. The apple, the road. So just remember, if you have a vowel sound, a noun or an adjective which is vowel sound, the pronunciation of the changes to D, and if you have a consonant sound in the noun or the adjective, the pronunciation of the word the remains as the itself. Okay, that's it. Small one in between. Please note that down. Okay, now let's look at three or more syllable adjectives. Three or more syllable adjectives are words where you will either hear three vowel sounds or even more than three vowel sounds. Okay. So then what do we do? Now over here, I'm going to the chart over here is going to show you the comparative superlative forms of the adjective words that have 3 or more vowel sounds or 3 or more syllables. Okay. So in these cases, we will always add more or less before a comparative, and you will always have most or least before a superlative. That's the rule. It will always be like that. So let's pick up the word, say mysterious. Let's break it up. Mysterious. I have kind of four. Mysterious. Sometimes when you break your word like this, it's easy to even learn spellings. It's not only to understand the adjective part, it is also easy to learn spellings when you break your word. How do we break our word to learn spellings? You always break it at the syllable point. You've had your first syllable, miss. T, that's my second. Re, yes, that's my fourth. Third and fourth. Mysterious. If you break your word like this at syllable points, it's easy to learn spellings also. Okay. So I've got a 4 syllable adjective here, mysterious. My comparative becomes more mysterious, less mysterious. My superlative will be most mysterious or least mysterious. But these words can never have an ER and EST. Please don't try it out. It's very weird. Mysterious, sir. Mysterious. Pronouncing also becomes difficult, at times. It's really weird. So yeah, we cannot have that. Okay. So it's a 3 syllable or more than that. Please stick to more or less in comparative situations, and please stick to most or least in superlative situations. Okay. Now again, let's pick up complicated. Complicated. Again, have a 4 syllable. Okay, break your word. As I said, guys, anyone who has a problem or has difficulty in learning spellings or in understanding how to learn, big words, please break it at each syllable point. It's easy for you to remember. This is again another extra pointer you can say from my side. Please note that down also, and if you like it or you want to follow it, that's up to you, of course. So here, like I said, complicated, 4 syllable sounds. So now what do we do with complicated? Comparative, more complicated, less complicated. Superlative, most complicated, least complicated. Fine, same rule. Now let's again break up the word wonderful. Wonderful, 3 syllable. That's it. Wonderful. I have a 3 syllable adjective. The rule is the same. More wonderful, less wonderful, most wonderful, least wonderful. That's it. Okay? Not very difficult with 3 syllable. The only thing you need to remember is, if you hear a big word, right? Wonderful, complicated, mysterious, or independent. Okay. So, independent. 4 syllable. She's more independent than her brother. She's the most independent person in the world. Simple. More or less will go for comparative. Most or least will go for superlative. That's it. Okay. The only thing is gets a little dicey. Gets a little dicey over here is when you do a double syllable, when you have a 2 syllable adjective. Then you need to understand with the sound sometimes, if you want to go with ER, EST, or you stick to, the more or less part in comparative and most and least for superlative. Otherwise, the rules are again simple. If you have a Y, strike out the Y, add an I to it, ER for comparative, EST for superlative. End of the story. That's it. Right? Quick recap I'm doing from now back to forward. If we have a one syllable adjective, big, small, tall, talk. The talk is not sorry, but big, small, tall. Let's pick this. It's just one syllable adjective. The rule is CVC. Consonant, vowel, consonant. Now, if I have only one consonant as my last alphabet, after the vowel, I have only one consonant. I will double my consonant and add ER to it. But after my vowel, if I have two consonants, as in small or as in short, RT. After my O, I have two consonants, R and T. I already have two consonants, then I do not have to add another alphabet. I will simply add ER to it or EST to it. That's it. It'll take some time, but I know you guys will get it. It's easy, not difficult. Now let's look at some examples. I tend to be more reluctant than my friends when trying new things. Reluctant, 3 syllable. The noise at the pool was less bothersome. Bothersome, again 3 syllable. Superlative adjectives. Her second compilation was the most exceptional of them all. Exceptional, 4 syllables. Those were the least comfortable couches I have ever sat on. Comfortable, 4 syllable. Yes, there are some words, where you have 5 syllables also, but the rule will always be the same. More or less for comparative, most or least for superlative. Okay. Now there are exceptions over here. We'll go through some of them when we're talking about irregular adjectives. Where you have irregular words, adjectives such as good, bad, little, far. You can see it over here. They are not your usual words. Then what do we do? Okay, now when it comes to, like, for example, you guys must have, in your course, in your classes, you must have come across irregular verbs. The exceptions are there. The same rule is here. Irregular adjectives. The exception is there. So now what do we do when we have to make a comparative or superlative with them? It is important to note there are a handful of irregular adjectives, of course, that don't follow the above rules I have just mentioned and explained. So over here, we will have to learn them. Sorry, something happened. We will have to learn them as it is. Okay, let's go through it. If you have an adjective that is good, better, best. If you have bad, or if you have the word ill, worse, bad, worse, worst, good, better, best, little, less, least. That is why you see above you've come across the word in comparative and superlative. More or less you can say, most or least you can use over here. We are talking about amounts. Little is the adjective. Little, there's no littler and there's no littlest. Little, less, least. Far, it's about a distance you're talking about. Further, farther, farthest. Delhi is farther, Punjab is farther than New Delhi. Okay, we are comparing between two states. Kashmir is the farthest from all of the states. So that means it is really different. It's far. Alright, that's all it means to say. 1 second, guys. Right? So we are clear till here. Far, we're talking about a distance. If we are talking about a distance, it is farther and farthest. If we are talking about the extent of it, further, just move a further bit. Just here. We're not talking about distance. Move a bit further. You want the person to shift a little bit. That's it. Further, furthest. Then you're not going to go farther and farthest. If you have an adjective which has many or much, more, most, any one of it, your adjective is many or it's much, the comparative and superlative is the same. More for comparative, most for superlative. Irregular adjectives are just like irregular verbs, guys. These are exceptions. You just have to learn them. We don't know why are they like that or why were they created like that. We just know we have to learn them like this. Right? Let's look at some examples. I did better than the rest of my class on the final. Obviously, now look very carefully. Now you are going to tell me that this rest of the class over there, but you don't understand one thing. She's comparing herself with a singular noun, that is rest of the class. I did better than the rest of my class on the final. Okay. She ran farther in this race than she did in the last one. When I say farther over here, what I'm trying to say is the last race, say probably she ran only 100 meters. Okay. So this time she did 150 meters. So she increased her distance from 100 to 150. She went ahead. So she ran farther in this race Then she did in the last one. That means she increased the distance. She went a bit more ahead. Okay. Superlative. That was the best birthday present ever. Another one. I bought the least expensive souvenir that I could find. That means you did not spend a lot of money on, buying a souvenir. You got the least expensive one. Fine. Superlative. So that means there were a lot of souvenirs. There were a lot of souvenirs over there. You had, someone in the range of 50, 60, 100, 150, 200, 500, 1000 rupees. Out of all those, amounts, the souvenirs that existed with different ranges, I chose the least one. That's it. So superlative. Now in the end, we'll do a quick recap of the tips that you need to recognize and use when you're doing a comparative and superlative adjectives. It's a recap of everything we have done till now in short. So tip number one that you need to remember is rearrange your sentence to use different forms of the adjective. Please, you have to keep that in mind. Very important. Okay. So we can use different forms of the adjective if we adjust our sentence to fit the adjective. Now let's look the examples that are there for one syllable adjectives. I ran faster than my friend. What we're trying to say is it's a one syllable adjective. You've added er to it. In comparative adjective, than word will come after the adjectives. That has to be added. And because you're comparing after that, you need a second noun. The first noun is I. You're talking about yourself. Where is the second person now? My friend. Because you're comparing. So one has to come first, the second will come later. In between will come the comparative adjective. Okay. And because it's a comparative adjective, you will add than after the comparative adjective. Now let's rearrange the sentence in a way that allows us to use the superlative form of adjective. That means this is a comparative example. Now the same sentence sentence we are going to create it for a superlative. Between my friend and I ran the fastest. You can also frame it this way. It is correct. Fine. Here, the comparison is still being made between two people. However, when we limit the nouns that we are comparing, we can use a superlative form of adjective. Notice this sentence follows the other superlative characteristic of using word the before the adjective. Superlative will always have the in the beginning. Then you will have a superlative adjective. Okay. Another example, how you reframe your sentences. That was the shortest movie in the series. Series can be like, 4 or 5 series that movie has. And then this movie was the shortest. The length of the movie was the shortest. Okay. Superlative. Good. Now I need to convert this into a same situation, same thing, but I want to make it comparative. Then what do I do? That was shorter than any other movie in the series. So I'm comparing it again with just one movie, but in the series. I've reframed my sentence differently. That was shorter than any other movie in the series. Fine. Here my comparison is with the movies, not with the series. Here series are just added as information, extra information. That's all. Here the comparison is still being made to 2 or more movies and we are still describing it to the lowest degree. By adding any other before movie in the series, we can use the comparative form of adjective. I just added any other over here. That's all. So I instantly remove it from the superlative format and it becomes a comparative format. Notice that this sentence also now follows the comparative characteristic of using than. Even here, because it's comparative, my than will still come. Because I've done shorter and than. The rules will not change. If you're framing a short comparative adjective, after the comparative adjective, than will come. If it's a superlative adjective, the will come before that. Those rules will not change. Okay. Now let's look at the tip number 2. Remember your spelling rules before making the comparative or superlative. Very important. Spelling rules like we did it earlier. Okay. If it's a Y, you remove the Y, add an I, ER, EST, more or less, most or least. So here, if the adjective already ends with an E, just add R for comparative or add ST for superlative. Wide, wider, widest. Brave, braver, bravest. Another rule, if the adjective ends with a consonant, short vowel, consonant, you will just double your last consonant, add ER, add EST. Big, bigger, biggest. Hot, hotter, hottest. If my adjective ends in a Y, I change my Y to the I and then I add ER or EST. Early, earlier, earliest. Silly, sillier, silliest. That is it, guys, with comparative and superlative adjectives. I hope it's clear to all of you. I know there's a lot to soak in, there's a lot to take in. Take your time, go through it, practice the adjectives very well. Below, you'll find over here a small exercise given to you guys to work upon it. Please do your exercises. Apart from that, I would suggest to use it in your writing practice. Please use it in your speaking. The more you implement whatever you've learned, the more you start implementing them in your writing and speaking, the more confident you will grow with using different grammar concepts. Without implementing and without using them, it's not going to get easy, guys. Okay, so please go through the exercise first. It's not very difficult. Go through the entire concept and content given to you over here. After that, apart from that, please use it in writing and speaking. I'm quite sure it's going to help you a lot. Thank you so much. Happy learning.